There are a lot of important figures in the VTuber industry. People that changed this community for the better. People that brought along with them new trends and set up the norms and standards that VTubers and fans in the present day follow. They don't necessarily have to be the ones that are the most popular or had the most views in their time, just the ones that brought along with them drastic changes and set new trends and overall became the poster child of a particular time frame. That being said, let's do some history. While the godmother of all VTubers and the creator of the VTuber industry that we currently know it as technically came to being in 2016, the classical age, I know it's cringe but let me LARP here, started officially in 2017 when Kizuna AI took the world by its nutsack and squeezed hard. Her existence and sudden popularity inspired a dedicated few to be like her, and those that did actually became really successful. Zero, Kaguya Luna, Mirai Akari, and even Tokino Sora, who didn't really find that much success at the time. Most VTubers following Kizuna AI in early 2017 and 2018 became really successful on their own right and formed a very strong relationship with other VTubers, especially considering that there was like less than 10 at the time. In this era, the normal kind of content for VTubing were basically short-form YouTube skits. The girls would often make goofy skits or play video games in a blank, white space. If you think VTubing right now has a high barrier to entry, well then let me tell you what. Back then, that barrier was outrageously higher. If you wanted to be a VTuber, you needed an actual team to facilitate your content. You needed expensive as shit equipment, technicians, designer for your model, and all sorts of tech wizards to be able to set you up. Only then could you actually start calling yourself a VTuber and make your content. It was kind of an exclusive club, and financially risky too. Paying for that many people for a gamble that you didn't know would pay off was an expensive and scary venture, but the rewards were plentiful. That is, if you actually succeed. Kizuna AI dominated the first few years of the VTuber industry since her inception. Without a shadow of a doubt, she is the most important VTuber to ever exist. She set the foundation of the VTuber industry, led its direction for a significant time, and inspired many aspiring content creators that being a VTuber was a route that was very much possible. She was pretty much a walking billboard at one point too, so while she rests for now, her fans await her eventual return. I is she who created VTubers. Nijisanji set its foundation on a very odd time. They were originally supposed to be a live 2D face tracking program, and the first generation was supposed to be the showcasers of their tech. However, the girl that found unprecedented success was none other than the absolute queen, Tsukino Mito. While 2019 was still heavily dominated by Kizuna AI and Ko for the most part, the reason why I put Mito in here was because she was the girl that started an entire movement in the industry. She was a face for the company's live 2D app, but she was also entertaining, charismatic, and weird. She quickly formed a massive following. Remember, this was a time where being a VTuber had a very high barrier to entry. But when other aspiring VTubers saw Mito's success, they started thinking that maybe, just maybe, they didn't need all that fancy expensive tech and 3D models to capture the magic of VTubers. Maybe they just needed a much less expensive live 2D model to be considered a VTuber. And of course, other VTubers followed. It was her popularity and success that started the live 2D movement in the VTuber industry and normalized it. It's the standard that persists today and perhaps far into the future too. She was the woman that carved Nijisanji's name into the Japanese sphere and made them the absolute success that it is today. But if you think her achievements end here, you'd be absolutely wrong, because it was also her that revolutionized the standards of VTuber content. While in the classical era, VTubers typically produced short-form content and skits in a 3D space, she was the one that started doing zatsus and live streaming activities. Again, other people followed her success and as such replicated her kind of content, and it snowballed from there. She essentially started the next generation of VTubers. You can see why I call this the Renaissance era, because while Kizuna AI was the one that started the VTuber industry, Mito was the one that changed it. She is one of the most important VTubers in the industry. She who defied its trends and started new ones. She who massively lowered the barrier to entry. She who essentially triggered something of a rebirth in the industry, hence the Renaissance era title. Mito was she who revolutionized VTubers. Late 2019 and early 2020 was an interesting period for VTubers. Old legends were slowly fading away, unable to keep up with the new demands and rapid changes for the industry. It was changing too fast, and adaptability was something that a lot of indies and companies failed to excel at. This was an age where many legends died and many were born. Agencies like Hololive and Digisanji took root, found their own niches, carved their own path, and made their own markets, but despite that, it wasn't really without controversy or drama, because this was a time where the industry basically had no real trend-setting leader at first, in my opinion. It was a time when even big companies like Activate, Nijisanji, and Hololive were ridden with drama, mistakes, and various controversies. However, despite all that, hope glistened far out into the sky, when a certain overqualified dragon who wanted to be a manager crashed into the offices of Hololive and accidentally destroyed it. Forced to work to repair for the damages, the legend of Kiryu Coco began. From the day Kiryu Coco debuted, nobody expected her to be one of the most important VTubers to ever exist, and to be the most influential for Hololive at the time. She was a headstrong woman who actively went against the advice and rules of Hololive, and as a result, it made her stand out among her peers. She was the woman that doesn't take shit from Hololive. She was the one that shamelessly made unconventional and inappropriate jokes and gags in a place where conventional and appropriateness had to be maintained. Sometimes. And most importantly, she was one of the very few VTubers who knew how to speak English and bridge Japan's VTuber industry to the rest of the world. She was one of the main catalysts that triggered the VTuber boom. Her knowing English, reaching out to Reddit and to the Kai guys, playing into their humor and catering to both her Japanese and English fanbase expertly at the same time, made it so that everyone loved Kiryu Coco. When clips of Hololive grabbed a lot of people's attention, it was Coco that capitalized on the new foreign fans and essentially became their bridge. She appealed to the English-speaking fans because she understood English memes and humor more than anyone in the sphere. It was her that strongly insisted and encouraged Cover Corp that they form Hololive USA, which absolutely exploded into the very influential and successful myth that you see now. Well, yes, English VTubers like Sachi, Melody, Silverveil, and Iron Mouse, and even Nyanners already existed on Twitch at the time. Coco was the one who brought notoriety to the term and the name among the English community. Not to downplay their own contributions, though. There's a reason why many people refer to this era as the Golden Age, and it's because to OG fans, this was a time where it felt like the VTuber industry was inclining at an unprecedented rate, and to new fans, this was the time where they discovered VTubers, when the magic was still at its highest. The time when every fanbase of every agency, demographic, and culture were in harmony with each other. Hololive was at the center of the VTuber boom. But while everyone may have found the rabbit hole through different members, it was Coco who cultivated the overseas fanbase, the bridge from Japan to the rest of the world. But unfortunately, Coco's time was short. As we all know, the star that shines the brightest burns the fastest. Wrapped in a controversy that was no fault of her own, and with Cover's restrictions and mistakes following suit afterward, Coco decided that it was time to leave. I don't want to explain everything again because I already made multiple videos explaining the situation. However, despite that, Coco's brief existence was one of the most impactful and significant in the industry. Many people feel that her graduation was the end of an era, and in a way, that's pretty much true. But regardless, she inspired other VTubers that would found a new age. Her legacy remained and will continue to do so no matter what. Coco is she who connected the worlds of VTubers. 2021 was a time where the English community really settled and found their place. 2020 was the golden era, but when people finally saw VTubing as its own gold and tried to jump in, everyone wanted to take advantage of it. Multiple businesses, organizations, and corporations outside Japan took notice of the absolute boom and potential of VTubers, so they started funneling their money into creating their own. Small EN companies were formed, indies were debuting left and right, VTubers were taking the global spotlight in anime-adjacent communities, and were even topping on music billboard charts, streamer rankings, and overall internet interest. Once an enigma of Japan's culture, Hololive and Kiryu Coco brought VTubing to the global sphere. And she who personified the EN boom of this era was none other than Holomyth's own Gar Gura. While Pecora was the VTuber that took up the most watch time and dominated streamer rankings throughout the entire year, and Amelia Watson was pulling out trends from her own ass, 2021 was the EN Gold Rush, and the poster child for the trend is the world's most popular VTuber Gaur Gura. While she herself may not have achieved many substantial contributions to the industry like Ai, Mito, or Coco, the reason I think Gura represented the Gold Rush era was just due to her sheer popularity. Capturing the hearts of the EN, Chinese, Japanese, and literally every fanbase out there, Gura rose to the ranks in the community. So much so that one could argue she's more recognizable than Kizuna AI these days. She is the mascot for EN VTubing itself, the poster child of the market. Hololive Myth pretty much dominated the EN landscape in 2021. Their success was what made VTubing even more popular in English-speaking countries. They changed the game for the better. They were the floodgates that opened up the possibilities of EN VTubing and inspired many to follow their lead. If I could, I would have put the entirety of Myth here, because I do think that they as a whole were the ones that ushered in this era. Like how companies and industries around the world works, indies and smaller agencies were essentially trying to follow in Myth's footsteps. It's just that the rules I set for this video makes it so that I only have to choose one person to represent it. But either way, Myth and Gura essentially dominated this era, just by existing. Which is kind of impressive actually. Gura was she who globalized VTubers. As the gold of the previous era dried out, VTuber companies, agencies, and indies settled down. Some made sure to put their gold to good use and carve their own place in the industry, while others were quickly forgotten by the rapidly evolving industry around them. Those that had the wits, the will, and the work thrived. Those that had no plans, no direction, no idea what they wanted from this industry, faded. The end of 2021 was a time where everyone who joined this industry was tested, including the VTubing fanbase. Certain trends died, certain VTubers fell off, and fans found themselves admittingly tired and burnt out. The honeymoon period was over for many people, and many would form their own bubbles or leave the VTuber rabbit hole slowly but surely. For the industry to stave off this stagnation, certain changes had to happen, even if those changes came with them controversy and initial skepticism. And thankfully, many great VTubers did play their hand and brought along with them the many possibilities as to what this era will be all about. Iron Mouse, Shy Lily, and lots of Twitch VTubers started strong by being massive powerhouses, especially Iron Mouse, who became the absolute queen of Twitch, surpassing literally every female in that platform in terms of subscribers. Achievements like hers and other indies brought more attention to Twitch VTubing and VShoujo as a whole, and with a surprise entry from two of the biggest superstars in the VTubing world, Kason and Nazuna, this year could very well be the Twitch epoch. But it's not just them that played their hand. Luxiem came off extremely powerful and brought along with them a new fanbase from an untapped market, welcoming them into the VTubing community and taking in unexpected numbers. They've inspired an influx of male VTubers in the industry to debut, as well as made it known to the world that male VTubers can succeed in the EN sphere. So, could this be the age of the boys? But it's not just them, because Hololive also came in and started locking into specific regions and were utterly flawless in their execution. They've got the Indonesian market in an almost monopolistic iron grip, had the Koreans heads over heels, and got the Spanish community edged like a motherfucker. Or could something else emerge from the industry and take over this era? We won't know until this era is over. Heck, it may not even end this year. I have a good idea as to what 2022 is going to be all about, but I'm holding off my judgment until I see everything. I mean, Kizuna AI could make a massive epic comeback in the last 2 months and absolutely bring along with her an age of return, where OG VTuber fans found their love resparked and swarmed the industry once more. Salome pretty much already set the scene for that in case it happens, especially with her unexpected rise to stardom. So yes, the future's uncertain, because pretty much anything can happen. The industry has proved itself again and again that things happen in unexpected ways, in the most unexpected times, for the most unexpected reasons. And of course, ultimately, it's all of you, the absolute degenerates in the community, that gets to decide what this era is going to be all about. Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video. Leave a like and comment down below if I've missed something, or if you have something to add, and if you want to support me, joining my membership or Patreon will be the best way to do so. Anyway, that's it. See ya.